Welcome to the Nebraska Hawk's Nest. These guys are brave! They're Hawkeyes, living in enemy territory. Listen, these guys are way past their prime, but they're still Hawkeyes! They're spreading the Hawkeye hype to all of Nebraska. The frost advisory is canceled! Cornhuskers? More like corn shufflers. Are you ready for this podcast? Let's go Hawks!
All right, welcome back to the Nebraska Hawk's Nest. Give us a like and subscribe. Let's share this interview out all over the place, just like we want to with all of our Hawkeye legend interviews. How cool would it be to have the greatest podcast in Nebraska be one that's about the Hawkeyes? So let's get that out there right now. We are joined today by former Iowa Hawkeye Dominic Alvis. How's it going, man?
It's great. Thanks for asking me on, Adam.
I got a lot of questions right off the bat, just initially. That mustache is absolutely glorious. I'm a little intimidated right now. There's like a sheen coming off of it. I mean, it's beautiful. Tell me about the mustache, what the inspiration is behind that. And I think that there's a little bit of a backstory everyone needs to hear.
I think all Iowa fans, can appreciate a good mustache.
Oh, yeah.
Pride donned, one of the best, I would argue. Excuse me. I belong to a fundraiser organization that helps poverty, children in need here in Omaha. It's called Mustache for Kids. And during the month of May, we grow mustache. We raise as much money as we can in the hopes of achieving what's known amongst my testosterone-laden constituents as Selleck status after Magnum PI heart Tom Selleck. So raising awareness for that. That's what the stash resembles. But as Iowa fans, if we can't gather around, a guy with some dirt on his upper lip, we can gather around helping out children's charities. So more about that. I have a link if anyone wants to help me out and help a local charity out for a good cause.
Okay, awesome. Now I got to tell you some dirt here. My mother-in-law loves Tom Selleck, so she comes and stays with us quite a bit, and I got her a big, huge Magnum PI poster, and I put it up in her room. And he's got the Hawaiian shirt on, and the mustache is blowing in the wind. And she's like, I might have to move in here immediately. That's her guy.
With Tom Selleck, just a man who just drips masculinity. Yeah. It's okay, to have a little man crush, even as a guy, I think so. I totally get it.
My knees buckle every time I see that mustache. I could never grow a mustache like that ever. I tremble a little bit. Yours is pretty sweet though too.
It's about 2.5 weeks in. It's going to mature around probably week 4, week 5. But there is a Swedish Stash Award for the best cookie duster. They give an 8-foot tall statue. Credit of nature, you bet your ass. I'm going after that statue, the Swedish Stash, and in hopes I can raise a little money and have some fun too. So.
I've never heard it called a cookie duster. That is phenomenal. I'm totally stealing that. That's probably the best name for a mustache I've ever heard in my life. I got to keep it together. I about came unglued there. A cookie duster. Now that's a pretty sweet T-shirt you have on there. We run on podcasts too, so we got to give a visual for all the people that can't see it too. Show us what it is and the story behind that.
I was bestowed this wonderful gift, and I'll just hold it here. Bestowed this wonderful gift by my good friend Drew Watt. If this is a Nebraska Hawk's Nest podcast, how can we not talk about Drew Ott. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was, God, it was, I think it was around Drew's senior year. I was finished, but still a friend that came back to watch the games, to watch him. It was leading up to that. I'll pan back up. That it was the week of Iowa State. And if you play at Iowa, there's 2 games, and especially growing up in Western Iowa, you got to win Iowa State and Nebraska, right? You got to win those games. So there's a lot of hype leading up to it. And I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday morning, Drew was riding to go work out. Some guy, Drew was coming down the hill. He was coming up the hill. Sun was in his eyes. And took Drew out, just flew him over the top of his car. And a lesser man might not have started that, might have showed up to the game, and had a decent game, but Drew not only showed up, I think he played, he started. There's a rumor mill going around that it was Iowa assassin, someone who was hired to do that, but I think it was just a young kid from Iowa City. But these shirts, this year of beard shirts were kind of what he's known for, is his awesome beard and getting run over by an assassin.
So there was a little bit of rumor going on. There was an Iowa State assassin out there trying to take Drew out. Yeah,
and I don't want to say anything that's not true. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean. It's everything's kind of adding up here. You know what I mean? It's all too coincidental. So I think it's safe to say
it's logical. You just got to put the pieces of evidence together, and I mean, it just takes you down a specific path. And that's also too. Like I'm going to believe a guy that's got a mustache like that, because most great cops and investigators have a legitimate mustache. So your instant credibility in my book.
Yeah, this caterpillar grin won't steer you wrong.
So you're living in Omaha right now, I believe. Tell us about how life in living in Nebraska is, and what you're doing for work right now.
Life in Nebraska is great. I love living in Omaha with my wife, Amelia, and our 2 dogs. I sell medical equipment, so surgical video technology all around the Omaha area. I've got a great client base, and by great, I mean a lot of people are actually Iowa fans. It's actually skewing that way. Unfortunately, I have to make good friends with our a lot of Huskers over here. But I've had a lot of success with that. Just being a fellow Big Ten guy. That's how I frame it, right? But no, it's been a lot of fun. I work in surgery with a lot of awesome surgeons around here. And there's a lot of good banter that I have, but that's about it.
So we always like to start, and we're kind of already through a little chunk of this interview, but I was very much distracted by all the visual treats that I was offered by Dominic with the mustache and the T-shirt. Coming out of high school, with your recruitment process, tell us what schools were after you, whether it be, regardless of the level, what other schools are you considering, and what made you end up deciding to be a Hawkeye?
So I was what you'd call under-recruited. I didn't play my sophomore year of high school because I had shoulder surgery. Had an awesome junior year, and then my senior year, the 4th game in, I broke my leg. And so I had some good camps. I went to UNI. Coach Farley offered me a scholarship, and throughout the process, Iowa was there. I couldn't actually go to an Iowa camp because that was back in 2008 when all that flooding happened.
Okay.
And I don't know even know if you could get access to Iowa City while they were trying to host this, because it was all underwater. So I never went to Iowa's camp, but I had a lot of good recommendations from area coaches. Referrals, I guess, when Coach Morgan comes sniffing around Western Iowa. And by the way, in my opinion, there's not a better salesman for the state of Iowa than Reese Morgan and how he can sell. I was just actually talking to, a coach from Omaha South, who, living in Nebraska, Husker fans, Reese Morgan is still to this day on the top of this guy's mind as being one of the best coaches, and his track record also proves that. Sorry for the tangent, but
no, that's great.
So I was recruited by Reese Morgan, and Reese saw something in me that some other schools didn't. I was offered from the smaller South Dakota states, Northwest Missouri State, all the local places, and I'd broken my leg and didn't have much film, but that didn't matter to Reese. He liked what he saw. It's really hard to become an Iowa football player, and so I was able to prove that in other through other sports and just recommendations from other coaches that I had played against. So he went out on a limb, and offered me. I was a gray shirt at the time. You all know what a gray shirt is. They say, hey, Dom, we don't have enough scholarships at the time, but we're going to earmark you. You're going to start January 1 with the following class. It didn't work out that way because someone actually left. The scholarship had opened, and I started with my recruiting class that fall in 2009.
Okay.
So, I guess moving from there, so the schools that I was offered kind of touched on that. But yeah, started gray shirt to then, I guess, regular shirt to a red shirt.
Okay. I mean, that's cool, though, that you brought up Reese Morgan. I feel like that it's a common theme on this podcast that he comes up, I would say at least every other interview, that he is just above and beyond one of the most talented coaches in the country at especially at finding guys that are under recruited, finding diamonds in the rough, and, just hitting the road, going out and getting these guys. And I think that a lot of the fans and myself, I always knew Reese was a great coach, but I never knew to that extent the genius of this guy and how he is able to find talent like he does. It's nuts. Everybody that we talk to, his name comes up every time as a really influential guy in their life, their recruiting process, and getting them to Iowa. So that's awesome that you brought him up because we're huge fans of his.
So this is a Nebraska Hawks Nest podcast, and so I'd have to mention the fact that he comes out to Nebraska. Guys, if you lived in Nebraska, Husker football is a religion, right? And so these young kids, I would be remiss to say that all of them probably want to play for Nebraska. So good luck any other coach coming in and convincing them otherwise. And so when I have these conversations with these high school coaches, they speak volumes of Coach Morgan, right, who's been able to pull Seth Olson, Jeff Tarpinian, Nate Budgeta, Drew Watt, and there's Noah Fant, right?
Yeah.
So all these guys who are very talented kids, that probably might not have happened, right? Had not been for Coach Morgan. So thought that's worth sharing.
We're working on getting him on. I know he's officially retired, but I know he's still heavily involved, and I hope that guy sticks around the program forever because I don't think that you can replace a guy like him. He's a once in a lifetime coach.
Absolutely.
So I need to know. I've done a little research on you, sir, and it sounds like that singing and theater were kind of big in your house growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
It sounds like it was pretty influential. Your dad was big into it, kind of spread across the family. Tell us about how that became such an important thing in the Alvis household.
Growing up, we'd have kids stay the night, classmates, and they said, Dom, your house is literally the loudest house I have ever been in, right? Because you get woke up by my dad singing at the top of his lungs, making breakfast for everybody. And from there, it's just like birds waking up, in the forest. Everyone was just shouting and singing. And so my dad he was a rock star, in high school and part of college. He had his own band, and then he wanted to be an opera singer. I don't know why. So maybe that, I'm sure maybe we have an opera following. I don't know. So
I doubt it.
So awesome singer, and I have 3 other siblings, all of which are far better singers than me. Lexi was on American Idol, and there wasn't an award contest that my family didn't win, musically, right? So me being the jock of the family, and I'm the youngest of four, it was just always understood that, hey, you're going to be a good athlete, but we're going to make you well-rounded, and you're going to do what your brothers and sisters who are also well-rounded, you're going to do exactly what they did. And so you're going to be in musicals, you're going to sing, and you're going to like it. And so my family is so musically oriented. My sister Erica, my brother Nate, and my sister Lexi is still producing albums. And I'm just happy to get an easy bit, because it really helps on Saturday nights when there's a live karaoke mic, you know what I mean? And the liquid courage is flowing. So it's a nice party trick. But yes, very musically inclined family. I've been in the lead in a musical or two, and it's, I don't regret it. My mom and dad were big into that, so kind of fun.
It's cool. How exciting was that for your family that your sister was involved in that American Idol process?
So I'm from a town of 1,200, right? Logan, Iowa.
Yep.
And so the American Idol producers came to a town of 1,200 people to do an interview for my sister Lexi. And, that town, everybody knows everybody. It was talk of the town for a couple years, because, not much else interesting happens. But no, I'm sure there is. But that was just bonkers. That was huge.
That is awesome. I mean, there's not too many people that can say that. And I don't know, with you being musically inclined, I still have to tell you that with that show, my favorite part still is the first 2 weeks when the really terrible people get on there and sing.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, will forever go down in history as the best, worst.
Oh, man.
That song, Adam, what's that song, She Bang? I think.
Yeah. She bang, she bang. I always watch it the first couple weeks, and then once the really good people get on, I'm like, okay,
right, tune it out. We've heard great people sing before. Yeah.
These bad people, and then they're so like, ignorance a bad word to say, but like they're so blind to it. They just are like, what? You don't think I'm the most talented person you've ever heard? You're an idiot. Like, that's the best part about it. Like, I freaking love that. I can't get enough of that. So yeah, I'm all in every time that's on. All right, Dom. I'm rolling in to Omaha on a Friday night, and we're gonna go out. We're gonna hang out. With you being, in Omaha now, where are you taking me? What are we gonna do?
So I live in the very hipster neighborhood of Benson.
Okay.
It's I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yep.
Everybody drinks espresso and smokes thin cigarettes. Okay. No, it's actually a really cool, revitalized part of town in Omaha, and it's got great bars and restaurants. We live walking distance to that. What's fun for my wife and I is, I kind of mentioned it before, we'd like to go have a few drinks, but there's a karaoke bar. And I'm sure, like a lot of people listening to this, it is a rural person's dive bar's dream. It's called the Full House. Okay.
Okay.
Rarely is it full, except on Friday nights and Saturday nights when they have karaoke. And just to paint you a picture, there's VFW war vets. Okay. There's people from the 70s singing Fleetwood Mac. Okay. There's people singing Rihanna and Akon. Me singing either Tenacious D songs or Walking in Memphis is a fan favorite. So
all right,
as long as you promise you could keep up, I'd introduce you, to all my people over there at Full House Bar. Yeah,
that's funny that you said that, because going to Omaha, Benson is one of my favorite places. I'll go down to Beercade and have a few drinks and play some pinball, because it's pretty nostalgic. And the Benson Brewery's got some great food. I love eating there. They have some great food. A lot of good bars. What's your favorite place down there?
We love, so my wife and I, we made it our mission to go to Oktoberfest, and then COVID had other plans. So we love the German we love the German beer. We love the atmosphere of Bearshin. It's a bar. It's got a great patio and German food and German beer. So if we can't go to Europe, again this September, because it happens in the month prior, we go to Bearshin to get that.
Okay. See, I try to get my wife to go down there, and she's like, I don't want to go to Benson. It's not safe down there. And I'm like, honey, it's different now. Like
listen,
it's cool.
You just got to sport one of these,
and you're good.
Nobody messes with you, okay?
There's just so much cool stuff going on down there. It's got a great vibe. The people down there are very cool. It's just a lot of fun. I've been to some concerts at the Waiting Room too.
Oh yeah. Live music's coming back. I went to a concert. Saw the Pork Tornadoes. It's a very Midwestern band, okay? And nothing like being sweaty, bumping into random people drinking beer, shouting, the same song. That is just cathartic.
I miss that so much. I can't wait. And Benson's one of my favorite places. So I'm going to recommend something to you.
Come on down. Yeah.
This is kind of anti-Midwestern, okay? If you go to Benson Brewery, try their vegetarian wings, okay? Ooh. They're actually really freaking good. Like once I had them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I might get like killed for this, but I think they might be better than regular wings. They're phenomenal, man. So you got to try them out. Like I'm a buyer. I'm sold on them. They are good, but it's some of the best food ever, and they got great beer too. So very, very cool spot.
Right on.
I need to know a little bit more about a talent of yours that I think now I've had 4 of your former teammates tell me, you got to get a hold of Dominic Alvis and talk to him. He's awesome. I'm like, okay, absolutely. And this guy can do the best Kirk Ferentz impression that I've ever heard in my life. I was like, really? Okay. And so I heard it again. And then I heard it again. They're like, have you heard Dominic Alvis do the Kirk Ferentz impression? I'm like, no, I have not, but I definitely need to hear this. So we wanted to go through some exercises here with you. I want to hear you if you're willing to give us maybe 2 or 3, even for as many as you're willing to do, of some of Kirk's classic phrases that you can recreate for us in his voice. And I've always noticed Kirk likes to do the little finger point with 2 finger point like this when he talks.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And quick caveat, I love you, Coach, and I want to do this. I want to do this well. I'm nervous if I do it wrong. It'd be a strike against Kirk Ferentz, so I got to nail this. But sitting in the front row, just absorbing Kirkisms for 5 years, it's really taken over my brain. And so me, amongst other people, we like to do these impressions. But, I'm even doing the finger motions right now, I think.
You are.
That's great. It's stolen Coach Ferentz's identity. I don't know. It's pretty, it's pretty easy. It's bangle, bangle, bongo. Okay. Bump, bump, bump. Okay. So, let's just say it's all copacetic at the end of the day. But, you just got to get your left hand inside. It's that simple. So.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you a question right now, put yourself in his shoes now. And like we said, Coach, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. All players that love and respect their coaches, I think there's always a group that always like to do this, and it's fantastic. So, Coach Ferentz, just run us down a little bit about Dominic Alvis, the player and the person. Tell us what makes this guy tick.
Okay, Dom, he's a guy, okay? He had a broken leg. Nobody wanted him, okay? So, he came to Iowa. He saw Chris, he put about, 50, 60 pounds on the guy. Guy didn't have any lead in his pencil. When he left Iowa, that guy had some lead in his pencil, okay? Let's just say that. But, hell of a guy, heard he could sing, so, good guy.
That's great. The one thing I always I've caught that he says is when he's doing the finger point like that, he'll say, and not only is he's a better human being than a football player, first and foremost. That's what he always says, that same line every single time. And it's great. So I mean, you've been a coach anywhere for 23 seasons. You're going to have some in the success that you've had and the respect, that he's got over the years from all the guys that played for him. I mean, everybody just has nothing but complete 100% respect for Coach Ferentz, and one of the greatest coaches to ever do it. So that's awesome. So I want to know, when you came into Iowa and as you got to know Coach Ferentz, what was maybe something that you learned about him that surprised you a little bit that you didn't necessarily know in the recruiting process?
Yeah. Coach Ferentz, I guess, the thing about him, and here's what I tell people, is you see some coaches where they're different personalities, right? You're like, is this guy the same guy that he appears when the TV is on? I guess when he's being interviewed, etc. And Adam, I'm sure you've taken time to get to know Coach Ferentz. I would argue I knew everything up front. He is one of the most transparent people in that fact. And I tell people one of his greatest qualities is he's the same guy on the sideline as he is, behind the scenes when he's working with us in team meetings. That and the fact that he enjoys, a cold beer every once in a while, St. Pauli's. So God bless him. He's a great guy and enjoys a few beers just like everybody else.
That's great. My favorite quote of his all time, he was being interviewed after a big win, and they said, "Coach Ferentz, what do you like to do when you go home to celebrate a big victory, when you get to relax and just sit down at home?" And he said, "Well, my favorite thing to do is to sit home and have a bowl of Iowa's own Blue Bunny ice cream. It's absolutely delicious." And I'm like, they couldn't have said a more Iowa thing right there. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding
Blue Bunny,
me.
So, another thing too is, and I don't know if the fans know this, but something they find interesting is he's one of the most stoic humans, that I know. And it's intentional because he's not like that through every phase of his. We see glimpses of when he's not. So when you'll notice it is whether it's the first game of the season or the last game for the Big Ten championship, you probably notice he's stoic. Doesn't really do anything out of the normal except chew his bubble gum maybe a little harder when it's a must-have fourth down. And he's writing on his paper. So I say this. So what's really cool as a player is you get to see that coach that puts on this face, and the reason he does it is we never want to be too high, never too low. We have a game plan, stick to it, right? It starts with me and it works down to the coaches, down to the players. It disseminates from there. And so that's his leadership style, is we just keep a calm head. We're going to do this, right? We're all in this together. But when it comes to the locker room after a big win, and he's leading us, in the fight song, what's really cool is you get to see all those emotions that he was repressing just come out in a way that you just feel so special, because it's a vulnerable moment for him where he just has everything locked up and then just lets it go, and it just makes you rally around the guy.
No, I love it when he does that. I'm just like, I get choked up when I see that too. I'm like, that's my freaking coach. That is our guy. I get fired up. A guy that's gonna be vulnerable, like you said, and show his emotion. Like after the Wisconsin win this year, he goes in the locker room and was getting choked up. I'm like, you don't see that anymore. You don't see that side of coaches, and to have a guy that's that genuine to be able to show that to his teammates, I don't know. I freaking love that. It makes me, even as a fan, just that much more invested in him as a coach and a human.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. So we talked about this a little bit before we came on, and it's a little bit of a tradition on our Nebraska Hawks Nest podcast. We like to have you tell us a funny behind the scenes locker room practice story with you and your teammates. could be anything from like going out to the bar to an altercation in practice. We've heard about a lot of, the offense versus the defense fights, face masks getting ripped off, people going at each other. I told you there was a story about somebody putting their balls on the Heartland Trophy after we beat Wisconsin last year. So, I mean, that's my personal favorite, but just wanted to see, what you had for us, Dom, because from talking to your teammates, you're an extremely well-liked guy, and you were in the thick of all of it.
Yeah, I'm filtering through my brain, Adam, what stories are appropriate, and I think the beauty of it is not many of them are to probably disclose. I don't know what the statute of limitations is, so I got to just be careful with my words.
You can leave names out if you have to, but just so you know too, it's just me and you talking. Nobody's going to see this. This is a private conversation.
How many dozens of people are we talking here, Adam? No, just kidding. So I got a story for you, and it involves kind of my personal story, but fans don't know this. But leading up to big games, must-win games, sometimes Iowa State games, right? Because there's not a bigger microscope on our team than if we beat each other. Sorry if you're an Iowa State fan. So very cool for me, raised in Western Iowa, to participate in a game that is, it is amongst Western Iowans, Iowa versus Iowa State. It is who gets bragging rights for a year. And it means more. I'm gonna get people pissed off. A lot of my friends. It means more when Iowa State wins, right? So it is must win for me. It's kind of like you play for Iowa. If you win, great, but if you don't, you're gonna have to hear about it. So leading up to that game, Kirk would show propaganda, anti-Iowa State propaganda. And when I say it that way, it sounds kind of bad, but thinking back on it, you're like, you saw Cy the Cyclone tear down the goalpost and stomp on a Hawkeye flag. Leading up every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'd be showing these 5-minute films to get you fired up. Like, hey, you better beat these guys because look what they've done.
Yeah.
And the worst video of all was on Thursday, right, where it was just like, we gotta beat these guys before we travel on Friday. And this loudmouth, fat offensive lineman from Iowa State, red-faced in Iowa City, 2002. Brad Banks was playing. That's the year we went to the Orange Bowl, and Iowa State. It was a night game. Had just beaten Iowa, and it was an on-field interview again with this big, ugly offensive lineman. And at one point, this kid was a City High guy. I'm a city boy. And he says, as he's grabbing the microphone, I have never lose to Iowa. Correction, I will never lose to Iowa. And he gets in your face, and you're just like, Jesus, man, turn it off. So film roll, film cut. And then the, projector screen goes up, enter Kirk Ferentz, like, this guy. We're gonna listen to this guy. Okay. So my first life after football, my first interview, I work for Stryker, and it's with this guy that I kind of might recognize this guy, and this guy is gracious enough to offer me a job, and I soon learned that the man who had just hired me was this obnoxious, fat Iowa State offensive lineman. Really? And I say that, and I mean it in a most endearing way, Zach. It was Zach Butler, and he was a center under Seneca Wallace. He was a captain for Iowa State, and I was like, oh my God, I have to tell him. So I told him this whole story about how essentially you are the key of program. And by the way, so I hope you don't mind if I tell you this story. And he says, Dom, he goes, I've had great respect for Coach Ferentz, but now that you told me that, I have even more respect, So I don't know. I don't know if you find that interesting, but
that's awesome.
I have not changed my allegiances, by the way. Go Hawks. It's just a job, I guess,
Yeah, you got to stay strong no matter what. Living in Nebraska, it'll either break you or it'll make you stronger. And I've chosen the stronger route myself.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
During your time throughout your career, as a student and as a football player, thinking back, what was the greatest thing about being a Hawkeye?
Well, here's the deal. When you talk to other people, I guess I've played in other programs. I guess what you could look at it is, there's pluses and minuses with each program. At Iowa, you're never going to have a school that challenges you academically and as physically as we did. And I think that it made me a warrior because I had to be, right? I had to survive. And if you weren't a warrior, if you weren't wanted to be the toughest guy in the room and show up every day and beat the guy across from you, you weren't going to make it, And just giving me that mindset, right? It still carries with me today. It still carries with my teammates today. And it's a fraternity of people that they create. And it's not like this everywhere, but they create some of the baddest ass dudes around, in my opinion. And some of them go to the NFL, some of them continue on, the careers professionally. But in my company, it's at an executive level, they hire Hawkeyes, So.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not just saying this because, I'm a diehard Hawkeye fan and we have a Hawkeye themed show and, social media podcast, but every guy that we interview, it's high integrity, high character. And, I feel blessed and lucky to be able to talk to all of these former Hawkeyes, and it makes you proud to be a fan and to be a part of a program where they hold character in such high regard and only go after guys that are going to represent the program well while they're there and especially when they leave. So it's a pretty great thing to have. Not many programs can say that.
No, and I think I graduated with, I think I was 7 or 8 guys, and something unique about Iowa in the people, the way that they recruit. Say what you will, the local guys, around the state of Iowa. I graduated. I'd probably be fact checked later, but I want to say there was like 10 guys in my graduating class that made it, and I want to say 7 or 8 of those guys were from the state of Iowa.
Yeah.
And how cool is that Iowa can have a winning program with local guys that they've homegrown, and it's really hard. So a lot of people don't stick around. And if you don't want to stick around, Iowa doesn't want you. But what's cool is I know that it's so hard that I bought into this just like my other Iowa guys who are high character guys. We've made it. We have a fraternity now. We have a bond no one can touch. But it just speaks to that.
That's great, and that's something that no one can ever take away from you. You have that forever. I need to officially, though, we want to invite you this year and every year after, if you can make it, to the Heroes game in Lincoln. It's not too far of a drive from where you're at. We're having a big Nebraska Hawks Nest tailgate, and we would be honored if you joined us and had a few beers with us before the game.
Right on, man. I'm in.
All right. We'll see if you're available, because the day after Thanksgiving can be tough for people. And
right.
So sometimes people aren't able to make it, but if you're able to swing over, man, we'd love to have you.
Hell yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you, man, for, taking time out of your day and out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot going on, for, letting us know what you're up to now, how life is going in Omaha. And, we want to thank you for being such a great representative of the program and for all the time you spent as a Hawkeye.
Adam, thanks for having me on. This is a great platform that you have. I'm biased as well. I think that it's a red state. We need to turn a little more black and gold. So, I'll be doing my part. You be doing your part. Let's do it together, man.
We're working on it, and I think we're gaining steam every single day. Just got to keep believing and spreading the Hawkeye gospel every day.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, Dom. Go Hawks, man. Thanks a lot.
Go Hawks, Adam.